What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the 1% Better podcast. How's everybody doing today? In this episode, we're going to explore how diet isn't just about looking good. It's about fueling growth, healing, and also your long-term health. I'll share how my nutrition evolved over the years, especially after brain surgery, and also offer simple tips that'll make sure you fuel your body for energy and recovery. Let's get into it. So today we're shifting the conversation from a fitness-based mindset to nourishment for growth, energy, and recovery. I'll also share the practical tips for your everyday life. But let's kick it off. Let's talk about my diet before and after brain surgery. So before brain surgery, let's go a little back. My nutrition and eating habits in my teens and 20s were terrible, like awful. I could crush an entire box of cosmic brownies in one sitting, or pecan rolls, the steakums that you can make in 2 seconds. I mean, this was my diet. It was god-awful, but like a lot of teens and people in their 20s, they're not eating overly healthy, especially when you're in college. Top ramen is probably your number one meal. But in my 30s, especially during COVID, I began to focus more on how do I improve that. I began to focus on tracking macros, calorie counting, and performance-based dieting. But over time, this approach really became exhausting. And honestly, I kid you not, I got exhausted just listing that out. And I got a little PTSD too, because it was so much work, like writing everything down constantly. And it's just like, this is what it takes to be healthy. So I realized I needed a more sustainable lifestyle and not just a strict diet, because anytime I did a strict diet, I fell out of it. And I started eating what I could repeat every day and food that I enjoyed on a day in and day out basis. This helped me get consistent, especially leading up to my brain surgery, not just a couple weeks before. I'm talking a year, 2 years before. But post-surgery, my perspective on food shifted even more. It wasn't just about fitness goals at all. Nutrition came more about my recovery. How fast was I recovering after anything I did, and even my surgery itself, the energy that I was having, and also the healing. I 1000% believe that I recovered from surgery much quicker because of how I was fueling my body before surgery, but also after. A lot of nurses, a lot of people came over our house and said, I can't believe how quickly you have healed from your surgery. And I didn't really have an answer for it besides I'm just taking care of myself. And that really did impact my recovery. So when I started eating cleaner, I noticed a huge, massive increase in my mental clarity. My recoveries at the gym or anything that I did skyrocketed. I was focused better in any activity that I was doing, whether that was work conversations, personal conversations, exercising, reading. The list goes on. It fueled everything, and my energy levels rose, and I could stay sharp for longer periods of time. And I think that was the most important thing. It didn't make me feel like I just had a cup of coffee and I had energy for an hour, hour and a half, and needed more caffeine. This was something that once I put it in my body, I felt like I had the energy sustainable for the rest of the day. But it wasn't just the food that I was putting in my body. It's also supplements. And supplements, when you hear that word, people think of bodybuilding or high intensity athletes. Supplements really are simple things that you can take on a day in and day out basis to support your recovery. And there's other areas that we spoke about. So the first thing that I did was started incorporating fish oil in my diet for my brain health and inflammation. I wanted as little inflammation in my body as possible to help with my brain and recovery there. So fish oil really started coming into play after brain surgery. And also B2 and B6 vitamins, really to boost my energy and cognitive function. these were areas that I wanted to maximize as much as possible. So I was taking, I still am, B2 and B6 vitamins in the morning. Fish oil I take after my first meal. And I also take magnesium at night, really to aid muscle relaxation so I could sleep better and improve on my sleep. And if you haven't listened to the 1% Better episode on sleep, I highly recommend you listen to that. And then to supplement, no pun intended, the magnesium, I also take melatonin for helping with my sleep and having better recovery. I'll fair warn you guys, when you first start taking melatonin, and you probably have seen like GIFs of this online or memes or videos, the dreams the first initial week are pretty vivid and crazy. I felt like I was in Happy Gilmore's dream. Remember Happy Gilmore's dream with the little guy on the bike waving, and he has his girlfriend with the beers and everything? That's how I felt like my dreams were in the beginning, and then you get used to it. So fair warning there, but it's well worth it. I got my hand back. Happy? Sorry, had to throw that in there. Also electrolytes, supplying that with the water that I was drinking and adding a little bit of salt to maintain hydration. Salt really has helped my hydration and balance in minerals after workouts consistently. And then finally, anything that I missed out of those other areas, I also take a multivitamin to really just ensure that anything that I'm missing as far as nutritional needs, I'm getting that. So this combination of diet, supplements, and mindful habits really have helped me recover and recover faster than expected. And this goes for everybody. All these things I listed, you don't have to have brain surgery or want to get in the best shape of your life to take these things. They're necessary. So I encourage everybody to go out. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at CVS, Rite Aid, any of these local places. But I get mine off of Amazon just because it limits time going out to the stores when not needed, and I can do a little bit more research without having to walk through the aisles and read the labels on everything. And as I mentioned, people really were surprised at how quickly I got back to work because of fueling my body with all these improvements. But it was really never just about the diet with me. It's more about the small daily improvements that build that long-term health. Like, I'm thinking decades down the road now. Like, I'm not just thinking about how can I improve myself this week or next month. Like, I want to be able to play with my grandkids. I want to be able to do things in my 80s, 90s, maybe even hit triple digits because I'm taking care of my body now. I know we're in such a world of instant gratification. And if we're not getting that instant gratification, it's like, why do it? But I want to look back and be like, man, I am happy that I did that. Kind of like if there's ever an invasion, I'm speaking hypothetically here. If there's ever an invasion, you're like, man, glad I bought that gun instead of having to use a banana. Weird analogy, but my diet mindset shifted, like I said, before brain surgery, but also after. So I think there's a big difference between fitness versus health. And there's a common trend that we all see with dieting as a tool for weight loss or aesthetics. I struggled anytime that I was just doing a diet for those reasons. And I really struggled to stay motivated when I acted like this, like where I could only eat a certain amount, like where I was counting my macros or calories. Like, there's got to be a better way. And it never felt sustainable for me. And it never was. I ended up always bouncing out of it and then gaining more weight or feeling more unhealthy after it because I failed at it. And it wasn't a long-term process that I could stick with. But I started looking at food as fuel. That's when the revelation really started happening, where I was looking at, okay, what am I putting in my body? How can I use it as fuel for growth, energy in my days because I'm super busy, and also the mental clarity rather than just tracking calories. And that answered all my questions for the things when I was doing just the diet. Everyone eventually hits a point where they need more energy to do everything they want. It doesn't matter if you're young, old, you get to a point. And 80% of that energy comes from what you put into your body. The other 20% is exercising. I would even make that number above 100% to where exercising is even more important, but balancing that enjoyment and nourishment is really important. I'll tell you guys right now, I love ice cream. I love a good pizza. I love a good cheesesteak. I'm from the Northeast. I'm from Philadelphia. So yes, I love a good cheesesteak. But I found that balance, prioritizing nourishment without sacrificing the enjoyment. You don't have to give up your favorite foods. It's just small adjustments that you need to make a difference. I mentioned in the first episode of 1% Bttr that just stop eating that candy that you have and change that to a healthy snack, an apple, a protein bar, something that is just going to be one difference for you. And that's the purpose of why we do this podcast, why I wrote the book. It's making small incremental changes that you can do, and it'll build momentum for you to do over time. And there really is a science behind this. For me, I looked at what are all the necessary things to get the right protein in me, the right omega-3s, antioxidants, all those areas. So protein for me is something that is very critical. It's essential for tissue repair and muscle recovery. As much as I work out, go to the gym, and exercise, I need to load my body with protein. So for me, my top foods that I recommend and that I go with is chicken. I could eat chicken 7 days a week, but I also could eat eggs 7 days a week, Greek yogurt 7 days a week, and fish. Fish, not so much. I was never a big fish guy growing up. I got into it as I got older. Salmon, you're finding a special place in my heart as time goes on, but there's other areas I can eat 7 days a week. And there's nothing wrong if you can't do 7 days a week with all those things, but find what you can stay consistent with. The omega-3s. As I mentioned, going through brain surgery, I want to limit as much inflammation in my body as I possibly can and also support that brain health. So going back to fish, salmon, that's a big one. So we've really incorporated that in our lunches and also our dinners. I guess you could say midday lunch, I do a ton of yogurt, but I add chia seeds, flax seeds, and walnuts, and they fill me up, and they're really filled with omega-3s and good for your body. And then I also take fish oil supplement. So I'm loading my body with that. Antioxidants is another one, really to reduce stress and support immunity. I mentioned in another podcast as well that I got sick a lot. And I'm like, why am I getting sick? Well, let's start looking at your diet. You're eating a lot of processed foods. You're not getting the right amount of sleep. The list went on. But I started looking at what can I fuel my body with? And I'm like, okay, I love blueberries. I love strawberries. I love raspberries. Let's start eating those on a regular basis. Dark leafy greens. Okay, I can tolerate eating spinach 7 days a week. Let's do that. All right, well, I don't have a snack to eat. What's my snack? Let's have a small bag of nuts, pause, and also have some dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is great for you. So adding that into the diet really made the difference. And then my vitamins to top it all off. My vitamins and minerals that I was aiding my body with really made sure I had the right amount of energy and production and also the immune function to make this all work. Vitamin C, boost tissue repair. Citrus fruits, so oranges, tangerines, things like this. Started incorporating more. Vitamin D really helped with my mood. So it wasn't as all over the place. Salmon, eggs, and then magnesium. So I was taking magnesium supplements, but I also wanted to make sure I was incorporating it with food, with nuts and leafy greens like spinach, whole grains. How much sustained energy could I have if I started eating more consistent quinoa, oats, brown rice? So we replaced the white rice with brown rice. We started incorporating quinoa and oats in more of our meals. And then finally probiotics, because if you're loading your body all with all this, your gut is taking a beating. So for me, I love Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt with no sugar, ton of protein in it, and then also kimchi. Kimchi has been something that has been really growing for us as I built my garden over the last 5 years. We'll also talk about that in another podcast of everything that I grow within my garden. But with all this, I don't want to just list everything that I do. I want to give you tips that you can do for your everyday life. The first is just starting with small, healthy swaps. Do not try to hit grand slams. Go for the base hits, get on base, and start that momentum. So replace processed snacks with whole foods, nuts, or fruits. Swap your sugary drinks for water or herbal teas. Cut out the Coca-Cola, the Pepsis, the Mountain Dews, even if it's code red, any of that, and add electrolytes to stay hydrated. This is consistent with me. I have water by me all day. Cheers. And meal plan. So prepare your meals ahead of time. My wife and I love to take a look at what our week looks like. What days is she going to be working? What days is our daughter going to daycare? What days are easier for us to make meals in the kitchen versus something that we have to prep for, and focus on balance with that, with the protein, the healthy fats, and the fibers. And then finally, stay hydrated, guys. Keep water by you. I know people get annoyed with having to take pisses and everything, but it regulates over time. And I add salt to the water and also electrolytes to just help maintain that hydration so I don't have to pee all the time. It replenishes those minerals after intense activities like going to the gym. And last topic that I really want to touch on is trying to just avoid those diet culture pitfalls. And what I mean by that is these fad diets where people are doing them for a couple weeks or a month, and then they fall back into their old habits. It's unsustainable, and it's also harmful for yourselves. If you want to take one thing from this podcast, outside of all the other nuggets that I've given, sustainability over extremes. Remember that. Sustainability over extremes. So making sure that you can approach every single day with building healthy habits rather than just following a restrictive diet. A restrictive diet just leads to you being miserable and pissed off and not being the person that everybody wants to be around. And keep that with mindful eating, about being present, enjoying the food that you're having, not scrolling through your phone as you're eating, and listen to your body's needs of what you do need. If you're low on energy, look at that. Why am I low on energy? If you eat something and then feel like dog shit after, why is that? Because everybody's needs are different. It's not a one size fits all. Your nutrition should be aligned with your personal goals, whether it's recovery, energy, or just your general well-being, and also experiment. I tried a million different things before I found what works. I found that I like fasting. I like not eating until noon because my mind got sharper in the morning, but I do hit a breaking point where I do need to replenish myself with the necessary fuel. But then I make sure I cut myself off so I have a good night's sleep at 6, 7 o'clock at night. And then finally, you can also talk to professionals. We're going to have a lot of nutritionists and dietitians on this podcast talking about advice, especially if you have different health and recovery goals. So look forward to those coming up. Final thought here as we wrap up, something that I think about constantly, of what you put into your body directly impacts what you get out of life. It's not just about being perfect. It's about fueling your body to be its best self. We're trying to improve 1% every single day. This is with our diet. This is with the nutrition that's going into it, how we exercise, how we recover, how we interact with other people. And what you put in your temple, which is your body, it all matters. Look forward to catching you guys on the next episode of 1% Better Podcast. Take care.